Oh, go live. Cool. And that's muted, yes? We're live again with Footy and Frothies. We are on the air. Barney Boy's sick. He'll join us later in the Chill Flow Cool Room Studios. Ollie and myself. Ollie, what's going on?
Not too much. Looking forward to the live show tonight.
Big week of news. How's the week treated you?
No, it's been all right. Not been up to much. Probably had my busiest day today. Getting orientated at the new job, which I'm looking forward to. But other than that, not much. Fair bit of rugby league news, both Origin and I guess player transfer related, especially in the last 24 hours, and I'm keen to get into it.
Beautiful. So I guess the big news of the week is, and welcome everyone watching live. Actually, we've got a couple of viewers there already. Leave us some chat in the studio, but in the feedback, I should say. But just as we articulate this and make sure Barney Boy can join us from his sickbed. So the big news from the week, Origin-wise, is that as forecast, we saw Angus Crichton added to the New South Wales squad with the injury to Jake Trbojevic, which sees Crichton off the bench. Paulo starts. That's the main change for New South Wales, or the only change. Any thoughts on Angus Crichton being? Was that the obvious?
I think so. It was him or Finucane. The only thing that was really letting Finucane down, I guess, is that he started the season off injured, whereas Crichton's really more had that sustained form throughout the season, really, other than that suspended period. But I was hearing, interestingly enough, on the way to the show, we got no camera, don't worry, you can still hear me.
Still here.
Yeah, so I was hearing on the way to the show that Jack Whiten might actually have to leave camp because his missus is expecting to give birth at any moment. So if that's the case, it's then a question of who comes off the extended bench onto the bench.
I would imagine Appy Coruscant would be favourite, wouldn't he?
Well, MG was saying he would have Finucane come on, but if you do that, then you've only got Fords really on the bench and you've not really got anyone. You know, Appy could, if need be, fill in, I guess, in the halves if there was an injury to a player, or come on at hooker as well. But then again, with the new 18th man rule, is he more valuable, I guess, as an 18th man in case there's an injury during the game? Because realistically, New South Wales' spine, they're all 80-minute players, so possibly unless there's an injury, and he has to sort of come into play as the 18th man. Yeah, it's interesting. It'll either be Finucane or Coruscant, you'd have to believe.
Yeah, as I send the link to the wrong group there. There we go. Yeah, I think Appy makes sense. Essentially, that 14th man only comes on and plays dummy half anyway, unless there's an injury. So that'll make sense. Angus Crichton's being, he's a little bit sloppy, but he's been in as good a form as most of the forward, or any forward in the comp really, except Fisher Harris's. I thought he was East best last week. And he was pretty good the week before as well. So since he's come back, he's been good. And the big news is Reece Walsh debuting, as I guess I picked last time in the studio. Actually suggested he could be in line for that. Val Holmes moves to 2. We then have McCulloch in at 9, Ben Hunt on the bench are the major changes. The Reece Walsh, there's been plenty spoken about it. What are your thoughts, Ollie?
Well, it's more out of necessity, I guess. You know, people might be right in saying that he's a bit too young, not played enough first grade, but the thing is, who else really is there now that both AJ and Kalen Ponga are injured, and you are dropping, of course, Xavier Coates for Holmes to move back onto the wing. And there have been people talking about, is he going to be able to live up to the expectation? Well, I actually don't think there's that much expectation on him, because anyone I've spoken to about this, or anyone I've seen comments about this online, has pretty much said that, you know, it is a bit early for him and it's a bit unfair to him that they're throwing him in. So if he has anything other, you know, above an average performance, then people are going to think, wow, how good was this? Like, how good was he so young in his career to come in and do that? If he fails and doesn't have a great game, well, people think, well, it was probably a bit too early, give him 12 months and he'll be all right. So I actually feel like the pressure's kind of off him in a way, especially because Queensland have just lost 50-6, so there's no expectations on them either.
I think he'll be fine. I'm pretty much a proponent of old enough is good enough, and physically he'll be fine. He gets bashed every week. Like, he has been absolutely belted in the last month. So I don't think that'll trouble him. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got, because at the moment, I think he could actually put pressure on Ponga. I don't know if, obviously, Kalen hasn't got going this season with injuries, but it's felt like he's maybe a step behind this year. When he has played, AJ Brimson's been a step behind. The Titans team hasn't helped that. So if he owns this game or the next game, he doesn't actually have to really own it. If he puts in a performance, a couple of try assists and is brave, he probably secures his spot for the next decade if he's good enough. Val makes sense. He'll provide some support at the back and give some senior. Put a senior head back there with him, and I guess McCulloch was all that was left come hookers as well. He anyway, let him run down. He'll make 50 tackles, and they do need that. The big issue has been, though, that the big issue is that all the edge defenders are still the same. That got absolutely railed last time. You gay guys, K-Pauls, and the like. Concern?
Who do you really replace them with, though?
That's right.
That's the thing. Like, coming up against Latrell Mitchell and Tom Trbojevic, I'm sorry, but there is no centre pairing Queensland can put out that comes anywhere near that. It's not to say that Queensland, lose all hope that they're definitely not going to win the game this Sunday, although it's unlikely, but at least in that department, there's no coming near New South Wales. So, I mean, if they changed it, I think we'd really be having a similar conversation as to how that pairing can match up to Latrell and Tommy Turbo in any way, shape or form. So I guess leave it as is and hope they improve from game one.
Well, that's right. If Mulatalo comes in, they'd still be saying the same thing about how, we can't just throw people in. So unless you're going to go backwards, you've got to start somewhere. Yep. There's no point. If this New South Wales team is as good as they think, everyone thinks it is, there's no point. What, are you going to protect them for 10 years? You've got to play them sometime. So get them in and going. It didn't hurt Harry Grant so far. So, fair enough. We'll wait till Barney joins us and give a bit of a prediction at the end. Now, judiciary news out of the week. Ravalawa got 4 weeks for his shoulder charge. Fair enough?
Yeah, I suppose it's something that's been stamped out of the game. I guess it's a little surprising. I guess the length, but I'm not too upset about it or anything. I guess it's just weird seeing a suspension that's come about not due to an outright clash with the head. It's a shoulder charge, but I guess that sort of morphed our perceptions a little bit over the past few weeks, but it's still fair enough for me. TKO Takiaho got off, which probably fair enough. I think he had a pretty clean record and not much due there. Nelson Asofos Solomon has accepted his 2 weeks, so he'll miss the next couple. And Pengai Jr. accepted a early plea for 3 weeks, which means he's probably well and truly played his last game for Brisbane. Definitely. I
would imagine, as it looks like we've joined by Barney on the line. He's a bit crook, so obeying COVID protocol, and has now joined us live. Looking very well there, David. Can you hear us? All right, we'll keep going while Barney chimes in.
Hello.
Yeah, you got us, Barn?
Yeah, mate.
Beautiful. How you feeling, mate?
I feel like death. And you?
Yeah, you look about the same, so...
Yeah, thanks, mate.
I'll just highlight you so you are in full screen mode for everyone. There we go there. And can I pin you there? Just quickly, your thoughts on Origin team so far. We've just run through the namings.
Pretty predictable by most positions. Queensland sort of, I think Walsh has been picked on the fact that there wasn't much else that they could do with that backline that would add any sort of X factor to it, and they've got bugger all. I think they've got bugger all ability to stop New South Wales outside back, so they're going to have to try and get some X factor and a few points out of there, what they can offer, what they're bringing to offer. So,
yeah, that's essentially what we'd sort of agreed on as well. And the obvious with McCulloch coming in and providing, I guess, someone to tackle through the middle, and Angus Crichton was the obvious for New South Wales.
Yeah, it hurts Harry Grant going down, and it hurts the Queensland side even more realistically. So I don't know where they go to from here.
Well, the other point I just made with Ollie was that potentially, well, when do you play them? This New South Wales team could be together for 10 years. You can't hide them for 5. You may as well throw them in.
100%.
Just on to some injury news. Adam Elliott and Chris Smith both out for 6 weeks for the Bulldogs. Harry Grant's looking like to be 2 to 3 weeks. Eisenhuth will be fine. He had a dislocated elbow, I believe, after all that. Remus, the Cheese, and Jesse Bromwich will all be okay. Totola from South's medial ligament, 6 weeks, so that's a bit of a blow for them.
Well, yeah, that hurts them.
In terms of their forward pack, so that's not ideal there. Signing news, as forecast for the last few weeks, DWZ has gone to the Warriors till 2024. Thoughts, Ollie?
I saw a lot of people calling for him to be RTS's replacement at fullback and to play Reece Walsh at 5'8", but I'm not actually too sure about that. DWZ, actually, he's been okay when he's played at fullback this year, but I still think his best position is on the wing. I feel like he would be a great replacement for Kemba Marlowe there. As I'm sure we'll get to in a minute, at least for the rest of this year, a certain halfback's going to be at the Warriors, a premiership winning halfback, so that helps them. So at least for the rest of this year, you'd have to think he's on the wing, and I'd probably keep him there, as I think Reece Walsh is probably best suited to replace RTS at fullback and be that sort of ball-playing fullback who chips in every now and then, not too dissimilar to a Kalen Ponga.
Yep. Any thoughts, Barn?
Mate, my brain's not working at all at the moment.
Okay.
To be honest, I've forgotten what you said about 30 seconds ago. So.
DWZ. DWZ.
Oh, yeah, no, he's a good winger, and, basically, he probably fits in pretty well where he's going to end up, but other than that, he's no superstar, so...
Trindle's extended his stay at the Sharks till 2023, so I guess he'll be floating around a reserve half position for a while.
It looks like it.
Jennings has signed on for an extra year at Penrith, and that's about it for the news in terms of that. PCTC is still ongoing this week, Barnes, so at the moment Invincible's actually sitting on a perfect round pending New South Wales repeating the dose, so well done to him. We'll report on that next week. Do you want to quickly give a few thoughts on the round and get yourself to bed, or you want to stick around for a bit?
I'll just chime in. I'm not going to run through my stats and stuff, but I'll just hang around and jump in at the end of each of the games, I would imagine.
Yep, that's fine. We won't do a disaster class at the end today because it's only new, so we can do that next week's show before Origin.
Okay, sure.
But do you have a recap of disaster class or not?
Yeah, so you got 2 winners up this week out of your 3 bets. So you had Latrell and AJ at $2.50 for both of those to score at any time, which got up, and the Cheese is first try scorer at $15. So
very nice.
Made us a bit of money this week, and your return now is positive $620. Excuse me. Ollie, we don't generally need to mention, so minus $700, and I managed to jag myself a double. I'm pretty sure it was a triple.
The Friday night,
I had
Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, it was 3 anytime try scorers. It was Latrell Mitchell, Mulitano, and Brian To'o at this is around the $4.40 mark, and I had $30 on that. So I'm now minus $330.
Very good. Anyway, is up, Barn. Good work. We did suggest that we will discuss our top 10 players in our opinion. Have you had time to think about it, or you want to put that back to next week?
I haven't done it at all, but I can get you a list next week if you guys want to do yours
that back
now.
A week. That's okay. No, because I was busy setting up anyway, so it'd only be off the top of my head, barring top 2. But Ollie, you're ready to go. You can have the floor for this week if you like. Or you want to put it back as well?
No, I'll read it out because I was a little rushed before coming here to do it, but I did get 10 players in there. I have an order now. Towards the end, it's sort of interchangeable, and there are probably players that, if I think back tomorrow, I'll add in there. It's just it's absolutely stacked, the NRL at the moment in a certain way, very top heavy, I'd say. That's not to say that there's a massive talent pool or anything, but in the NRL itself. But I've gone, my top 3, Cleary, Teddy, Travojevic. I've put Teddy above Travojevic purely because of injuries. I mean, if he's not injured, The way that he's looked, at least this year, he's probably above Teddy, and as well, Teddy's won 2 premierships and a Dalian medal as well, so that helps. Fourth, I've gone a bit of an outsider, but someone who this year's really making an impact, James Fisher-Harris, for me at least the best prop in the game, has been for the past couple of seasons too, in there as well. I've got Cleary in there. Obviously, we've not seen a whole lot of him this year, but we forget how influential, at least until a young Sam Walker's come through, how influential he has been on that Roosters side, especially those 2 premierships. Cam Munster's in there as well, although he's gone down a bit in my estimation. Misses that top 5 just. Really, him and Cleary could be interchangeable. I've also got Ryan Papenhuyzen, who I'd say has probably broken his way in there this year. Jason Taumalolo as well, because we know how damaging he can be at his best. Then Clint Gufferson, a lot of it's down to that impact he has at Parramatta alone, and how they're pretty much a different side without him. And 10th, it's the controversial one. I do have Joey Manu, and I did have a bit of a think about this. There are obviously players who could probably pip him, but I've still got him in there this week. And the big thing for me is the versatility as well, just how good he can be at 1, 6, or 3/4.
No, fair enough. Any comments on that 10, Barn? Or you'd like to ponder it another time?
No, it's pretty close to, I'd imagine I'll have 4 or 5 of those in my team come next week.
Yeah.
A lot of it obviously comes down to opinion, and I think obviously a lot of guys miss out on the fact that they don't do the flashy stuff, and they, whereas I think I'll have a few more blokes on my list that are the ones that are getting bashed up every week and, bashing other blokes. So.
Fair enough. I'm a slave to Flash, so we'll see how mine looks. I can do it off the top of my head if you like.
What, Flash Michael Gordon?
Let's not talk about him. We may as well throw out. This is just very much
put some time into it, too.
Yeah. Should we get into review time then?
Yep.
We've covered off everything else. Chime in and give us your thoughts throughout the show, and we'll get to. I'll run through stats very crudely as I wait for my iPad to update. But on Friday night, we kicked off 46-0 Souths over Brisbane. For Brisbane, Payne Haas, 176 run metres, 41 tackles, was probably the shining light. Him and Lodge, who made 161 and 42 tackles. The Bunnies, what have we got here? Latrell Mitchell, 2 tries. Campbell Graham, 2 tries. Alex Johnson, 2 tries. Graham, 2 tries. Latrell, a try and a try assist. Cody Walker, 3 try assists. Dane Gagai, 253 run metres, including 50 post-contact. Cameron Murray, 220, was sensational through the middle. Alex Johnson, 179. And leading the tackle count was Murray and Cook, both on 37 apiece. Barney, do you remember this game, and what did you take away from it?
I do, mate. It's an absolute flogging. The Broncos they normally give you 30 minutes of effort. They only gave us about 10 this week. Just a couple of stats I highlighted was 260 post-contact metres made by Souths compared to the Broncos side, and 2 line breaks to 10, with the Souths making 10 line breaks. Souths weren't even close to their best, I thought. Excuse me, sorry. And still did this one very easily. As I said, it came back to the Broncos only giving out about 30 minutes of effort in this game. 10 minutes, sorry, instead of their usual 30. Walker and Gagai were terrific. They linked up very nicely, and they have done the last couple of weeks, actually. They could be anything if Souths completely hit full gear, and Latrell chimes in there as well. Brisbane's best player of the night, there was only one, was in their own in-goal when they passed it 4 times and were trying to get out of their in-goal, and did sweet FAL else for the rest of the night, to be honest. And Xavier Coates chasing down Gagai. That was probably another highlight for the Broncos, but they were few and far between. There wasn't much there for them. Half the Broncos pack was okay, but the rest of the team struggled badly. So...
Yeah, I thought they were pretty much essentially in second gear. South for most of this game could have won by more. We flagged the left edge of South as a danger, and the right defensive edge of Brisbane didn't exist, so there wasn't much else to talk about. It was embarrassing. I don't know what else you can take if you're a Brisbane fan, apart from Payne Haas, who's a very good player, and in another team would probably be in many people's top 5 in the James Fisher-Harris spot. for Ollie. Matt Lodge is playing great football. He's probably tarnished by his past, I suppose, but would be a handy pickup for any team, really. Ollie?
Yeah, it's a weird sentence to say in 2021, but I was actually pretty disappointed by the Broncos. I was tipping a lot better in effort, especially out of the forward pack as a whole. I thought that's the reason why they'd be in the game for 30, 40 minutes, but it just wasn't to be. South Sydney absolutely ran roughshod. Again, like your Cody Walker's just an absolute masterclass display in this game. Cam Murray as well was an absolute machine. But yeah, Brisbane, I feel like we're now back at the point with Brisbane. Even when they were losing early in the year, there was like, okay, there might be some hope that they come back towards the end of the year. And then they got the win over the Roosters. It's okay, they might, win a few games and escape the top four. But I think we're now well and truly back to the second half of 2020 where this team is well and truly shot. They look terrible. And, I mean, they've just brought Ben Ikin in as their head of football. Now, whether he ends up being a good head of football or not, what really is there to do right now? Like, they've got Reynolds coming in, they've got Branko Lee coming in. Like, what else?
Yeah, well, here's the thing.
That's 12, 18 months down the track. It's a recruitment thing that he can do, realistically. Other than that, there's not much that can be done at the moment.
Yeah,
I've got serious concerns that they win another game this year, to be honest.
Off the last 2 weeks' effort, they can't. And I was like, Ollie, I thought, here we go. And we talked about it. He said, they're not far away. And they've gone backwards. There is issues now for the player group, given that last year, apparently, the players turned on the coach. This year, the players have already apparently turned on the coach. What's the common denominator? The players.
I suppose.
So there's issues there. They're obviously their wheels are in motion because they're pretty quick to try and dump off whoever they can. So I don't know where they go through in the immediate future. I'd be trying to convince Payne Haas to sign as long as he can. After that, does it matter? Is there any, like, Selwyn Cobbo's probably got something as a winger. Herbie tries hard. And we mentioned the forwards that they obviously not interested in Tavita. Alex Glenn's probably on the way out as well. They need full forward. They need a full forward pack to go with Payne as well. T. Sirabata's got something. Kobe Etherington might have something. You've now got to put stock in them and try and build something, Barn, I suppose.
Yeah, you're pretty much right there, I think, mate.
For the Bunnies, like some of these teams, and they have an amazing draw in the next for the rest of the season. Where my concern about them is their forward pack, and they will get bashed by Penrith and Melbourne. But everyone they're playing, they could put 40 on for the rest of the comp games for the rest of the year now with their draw ahead. AJ might score 25 tries. It could be scary if they really get going, and we'll see what mood Latrell turns up in some weeks because he could do it himself. But Riley's quite happy just cruising around and then winning games. I think they'll finish third, and we'll be interested to see where that all lines up come season's end. I said 3-2-1 is interesting because you can make a case for a few here. I had sort of 3 Walker or Cam Murray, and then AJ, Gagai, and Latrell sort of floating around that. Barney, what do you think?
I had Walker with 3, Gagai with 2, and Graham with 1.
Okay.
Well, I would have gone Walker with 3. I would have Cam Murray with 2, and then Gagai with 1.
I'm fine with that.
Well, that's fine. Yeah.
Yep. I'll mute Barney as he loses along there. Sharks 26 playing the Cowboys 24. Kicked us off on Friday night. A weird game, a scrappy game. It looked like at times Sharks were going to run away with it. It looked like for a few minutes Cowboys were going to steam back into it. And I thought Sharks were the better team for the majority. I know people are claiming that Cowboys were unlucky not to maybe come over the top. I don't necessarily agree. I can't necessarily say they were consolation finishes, but I thought they were... they're both probably on par, and I guess you got to give credit to the Sharks now that they have now, won 4 in a row from where they were. So
yeah, that's right, with the bye as well. Yeah.
With the bye, so they're doing it right. Stats-wise, I'll just quickly chime in. Val Holmes, 261 metres with 64 post-contact. Cole Feld, 197. Tamalolo, 167 for the Cowboys. Reece Robson, 54 tackles, 41 for... where are we here? For Mitchell Dunn, and for the Sharks, Will Kennedy 205 metres, Jesse Ramey 159, and where is he? Because he had a great game and he's gone. Aaron Woods 157 metres, 27 tackles, Blake Brayley 51, and Aiden Tolman 49 metres. Before I throw to you, Barney, I just want to mention Tolman and Woods. I think Aaron Woods is in as good a form as he's been in probably 5 years. I thought he was the best player in the field, just about. I thought he was
his
great.
last couple of weeks has been tremendous, going on, what he's done over the last couple of years. And this game was probably the pinnacle of those I'd say the last 3 or 4 performances he's put in have been very good and needed by the Sharks, realistically. The big stat that I had to take away with this one is, again, 55 missed tackles by the Sharks and 40 by the Cowboys. But that's not top 8 material from either side. Moylan missed 8 tackles. Everybody in the Sharks starting pack missed 4, except for Woods. Tolman missed 5 and Woods only missed the 1. Chambers missed 6 as well. Like, you can't miss 55 tackles. That's the only reason the Cowboys got close, I thought, in this. I thought the Sharks should have put them away much earlier in this game, and they didn't. There's a couple of those tries were directly from soft defence in the middle, which led to them getting downfield and getting points. Sharks looked like they had a better structure in attack, and when they did score their points, there was some nice free-flowing football from both sides. But at the end of it, I thought there was more poor football out of this game than there was good football, and that's pretty much my takeaway from this one. So,
Ollie?
Yeah, I'd have to agree that Cronulla were the better side for the most of it. It was entertaining football, I'd say, for the most part. I get what Barney's saying, though, in terms of the quality. It's just when I think now of 7th and 8th, I think of a while, like it's well and truly now. I don't have a 7th and 8th because there are about 5 teams who are both have the potential to be great, have shown the potential that they could be great, but have also shown how bad they can be at different times this year. And it's honestly just going to be possibly whoever gets on a run the last 5 weeks of the season, 3 to 5 weeks, who makes the last 2 spots in the top 8. But these 2 clubs will be sniffing around there. In defeat, a really good performance from Val Holmes. I think it was North Queensland's standout. And then Cronulla, you do have the forwards, but you've also got your Will Bubba Kennedys and your Blake Brayleys, I guess, setting the standard in defence, which he does most weeks anyway. That's sort of becoming a bit, him and his brother, sort of becoming a bit of a expectation for them, I guess. But yeah, I'd also say as a whole, it was more of a team performance for Cronulla than for the Cowboys. They were sort of dragged a bit by Holmes, in my opinion. But in terms of top 8, when it comes time, I had no idea these 2 teams could be there. Neither of them could be. One of them could be. I really don't know.
Yeah. Just quickly to wrap up. I said kudos for the Sharks winning 4 in a row. I think if they keep at least putting this effort, they will effort alone finish probably 8th now. I think compared to some of these other teams, they'll just outwork them. Even especially when you look at the Newcastle game, which we'll discuss soon, which was atrocious. They should just have more points in them than that. They're probably the team I'll take away from the last month, really, if you really had to pin one on to finish 7th or 8th, because Canberra I had hope for, and that's gone. Dragons, I don't even know I can't get my head around them.
Well, the thing is, the Dragons have an okay draw for the rest of the season, but you can't actually trust them to...
That's right.
Yeah.
Whereas I think you know what you're going to get from the Sharks. You can confidently say that. Whether it's good enough, other teams have to play better than them to beat them, I'd say.
Yeah, we say that, but who knows? In 5 weeks' time, there could be. Who knows? The Warriors could be on a roll.
It only takes 1 injury, 1 suspension. I was impressed with Dearden for his second game, considering how poor he was in his first game. I thought he did give the Cowboys a fair bit of structure, which helped them at times. But yeah, I had Johnson as 3 points. I thought all the attacking structures set up by Sean Johnson, and he's been tremendous since been told to go elsewhere. Woods with 2 points, and I had either Dearden or Felt for a point.
Yeah, I had Woods as well in there as well, so I'm happy for the first 2. The couple we haven't discussed, Mulatalo's been good since he's come back.
He's been terrific, yeah.
So he was close to my 1, and I've got to mention him again. Matt Moylan's been pretty good. He's got no legs, but he's been good. So he's playing as good as he can right now, I think. And happy to say, yeah. Well, do you agree with Val then, I suppose, in defeat?
Yeah.
Or okay. So 3 to Woods, 2 to Johnson, and 1 to Val. Just checking the chat. Lara says hi. Hello, baby.
Hey, Lara.
Gaz from PCTC has asked for a little less Barney's head, so we can work on that. I can't do much about the head, but I've hopefully made it a bit better focus. And Cooper Jobson, I assume this is for you, Oracle. He's sent some love hearts.
Wow.
So it's a beautiful thing.
We'll have to get you on the show one time if you ever come out from Taree.
Yeah. He can put his head up there.
Let's get to Penrith. What was the score here? As I've gone 40. Penrith 38, Roosters 12 for the third game in a row. Roosters led 12-0. And then the Penrith machine finally, ticked back over and got rid of the couple of false starts, and off they went. They were tremendous stats-wise. Which I could have written down before I did this. Instead, I'll wait for my iPad to load. It's great live vision. Dylan Edwards, 213 run metres, 220, including 71 post-contact metres. Was it this game? There was the tremendous moment where he just got tackled and suddenly just rose from the ashes and just kept running. James Fisher-Harris, 198 metres in plus 27 tackles. For the Roosters, 201 to Tedesco, 158 to Hargraves, plus 33 tackles. Crichton led the tackle count with 46. Takiahu, 39. Barney, they're pretty good, Penrith, I suppose.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that, mate. I thought they showed in the last hour of this game exactly why they're rated so highly by everybody. 220 post-contact metres in the positive again. They seem to do that most weeks. 6 forced dropouts, which when Cleary and Luai coming back into this side made such a big difference. You could see it from, basically once they took control, because the first 15 minutes was all the Roosters. There was a little bit of luck there with their first try, but they come out flying with a whole heap of energy, and Penrith sort of struggled to get a grip to the game for the first 10 or 15 minutes, but once they did, they took over, and there was no getting them back for the Roosters. Didn't matter what they did. They weren't getting back into this one. Penrith just wore away to begin with repeat sets and constantly dropping blokes back inside. And there was some really simple football that led to points, but there was some really beautiful free-flowing football as well, especially in the wet conditions. That was terrific. That just, some of the football was brilliant to watch from Penrith, and in my opinion, if they play like that for 60 to 80 minutes of any game, I don't care who they're playing, I don't think you're not going to beat them. You'd have to do some sort of miraculous. You'd have to have a miraculous game to beat them if they're playing like that, because I can't see anyone matching them with playing at that kind of that 60 minutes they put in. I haven't seen a performance like that this year. Any of you boys?
I can think of one.
There's a pretty good one the next night, but that's about it. No. Against that standard of opposition, no.
Well, the thing is that the Roosters possibly are a top 4 side still this year. You were talking about South before as well. Look at what Penrith and Melbourne did to them. You look at Melbourne, they didn't demolish them, but they ended up beating the Roosters pretty handily as well. Just goes to show how good these two teams are.
A couple of halves from Tommy Turbo would probably be as close, but that's a one-person performance.
Well, you look at even with Turbo in the squad, you saw them go up against Penrith earlier this year, and while it wasn't a flogging, Penrith was still the team in control. Right. They're the team who's come closest. And Turbo still had a really good game, but they're the team who's probably come closest to controlling him.
Even in hindsight, I'd suggest that was a pretty accurate reflection of where those two teams match up.
Yeah, they beat Thanos at this point with the Infinity Gauntlet full. But yeah, Penrith as well, the machine, as you talk about it, just started ticking, and pretty much every player had a really good game, at least in attack. They were just absolutely on. There were the couple of exceptions for the Roosters who remained good throughout. I thought Crichton definitely one, Tedesco the other. Yep. But other than that, it was just an absolute Penrith masterclass, and realistically, you could sort of take your pick from the Penrith side for who's in the conversation for 3-2-1. But there are a couple who I think
Lockie Lamb probably deserves a mention out of the Roosters side as well. I thought he was quite good in a team that was soundly beaten. So.
Yeah. Well, Cleary gets 3. That was, again, he just takes control. He needs to take control. He's the best. I don't know if I said this last week or we said it when we were having a beer, but he's the best at knowing when to do what. He just knows when he needs to run, knows when he needs to kick, knows when he's happy to let Luai take the reins for 15 minutes. He just doesn't seem to get those decisions wrong at all, at least yet. And from there, they go off him. What Penrith do, and I've talked about it a lot, I've talked about it for 18 months, is when they needed to just rest the momentum back, all they played for was repeat sets. And I don't actually understand why it's that hard for other clubs to follow suit. Like, I don't know why it's so hard for some of these clubs that lose momentum and just don't know how to get it back to just go, well, you know what, we're just going to grub her in the in goal for the next 5 sets no matter what, to build pressure, and that'll lead this. They play 15 minutes in the first half to score 24 points in the second half because they just went repeat set. I think it was 6 in a row. And the only play was grubber, get it back, let's go again. They dropped the kick to the second row. They dropped everything else. They just played repeat set footy, and that's what earns them those points in the second half. And I'm just surprised other clubs don't. The grubber isn't a play for half these clubs. And when some of these clubs don't have kicking games, it seems, why aren't they playing it? It shouldn't be that hard. But anyway, the benchmark. Anything else to add?
Not realistically. I thought Yo had another outstanding game. He seemed to have improved again since Origin. He was already going really well, but since Origin, he's just seemed to grow another leg. I had Cleary with 3, Yo with 2, and Tu'o with 1.
Yeah, the only one I would throw in would be Fish outside of the 3 you've mentioned, but I'm fine with that 3, Ollie. Yeah, okay, cool. The only thing I want to mention about Penrith, we've seen it with Melbourne. What Penrith haven't had to deal with yet and why they've been on top for so long is some adversity. Like if they lost to Luai for a season, we don't know how much each chunk of that team. Right now, for 2 years, they've been very lucky. And then we saw Origin, they're a different team. I'm not necessarily saying they're going to lose 6 players. But if obviously lose Cleary, I think they're stuffed. But if you don't know where all those little pieces add up to a big piece, if that makes sense, Brian. Whereas we know with Melbourne, they've got the hooker covered. They've got forwards coming out the backside. They've got, obviously, Nico Hines is not a bad player. And they're missing, arguably, the form fullback of the comp at the time we went down in Pappenhausen. So we've seen that from Melbourne. We just haven't seen adversity yet from Penrith. That's the only, not a concern because it might have happened. They might be blessed and it'll never be an issue. That's something I was thinking about.
I'd just have to think they could probably lose 2 to 3 and be at least okay. We could still see, so even if a Cleary drops out, but if you got a Luai and Burton there, that's probably still enough to get them how far into the finals. But winning a comp. But
there's 2 blokes I think they can't lose, and that's Cleary and it's Fisher Harris.
Yeah,
I think they're the 2, and then you can add the rest up however you want. But I think if they lost either of them, they'd be a half a step off, possibly even more. Let's get to a less than inspiring game. Newcastle 10 beat the Warriors 6 on the Saturday afternoon. This would be in the conversation for one of the worst 5 games of the year. Both teams had chances. Neither team seemed to know how to take any advantage of the chances. I know there's some rusty players in Newcastle. But both teams, to me, were very underwhelming. Ewan Aitken led the run meters for the Warriors with 186, Reece Walsh 178, RTS 46, Tohu Harris 57 tackles again, Josh Curran 47 for Newcastle, Sire Feedy 207 run meters including 81 post contacts to go with his 29 tackles, Mitch Barnett 158, Barnett 35 tackles, Brayley 33. They'll probably be in discussion for points when we get to that part of the chat, but both these teams I think were just very underwhelming, and I think the Warriors have been disappointing actually for the last month, to be honest, Ollie.
Yeah, well, I was about to say I don't know what's really happened to them because, I mean, you're still getting really good performances, in my opinion, from your Reece Walshes and your Tuivasa-Sheks, but we're no longer seeing the players jump on the back of that for the most part and helping them go on with it, because I'm sorry, the way Newcastle have played for the majority of this year, the Warriors really should beat them, but they didn't. They just did not get on the back of what Reece Walsh and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck really, for the most part, were trying to do, and it was just a real disappointment because they're a team who they should be in the top 8 this year. They've made one final series since making the grand final in 2011. They finally got a side that I think's well-rounded enough to at least be a top 8 side. And similar to the Titans more so the start of the year and sort of throughout, the Warriors are now, they're a bit of a disappointment because, they really should be up there with the top teams and realistically pushing for 6th, I'd say. But Yeah,
I agree. I think, and the concerning thing for me is if you take RTS out of this team next year, they're actually going to go back because he's their best player. He's still doing everything he can in his power, playing on the wing and everywhere else. Taking him out is such a blow, and I can't see how they're going to fill that hole, even with Reece Walsh, and obviously getting Harris Tavita and everyone else back next year. But if they don't improve on this, and I know they've got DWZ going over there, but here's who he is. I don't quite know where they go next year beyond finishing 12th next year again. A tough 12th, but they're going to get beaten because at the moment they can't score more than 18 points.
And how often in the past decade have the Warriors finished a 12th, 13th or 14th and just been not crap, not great, but just bang on average, irrelevant side?
Barney?
Yeah, well, this year they've built most of their success on high completion rates, and in this one they were down around the 68%, which is, most teams generally struggle when they get down below 70% completion. The Newcastle had 40 sets out of 47, so they only had the 7 incomplete, whereas the Warriors only completed 30 out of their 44, which is a pretty big difference. Also, 43 tackle busts by Newcastle, so that's 43 missed tackles from the Warriors compared to 15 out of Newcastle. Good luck winning a game when you're missing 3 times as many tackles and giving away twice as many errors as 7 errors to 13. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. Their halves generally are sort of hit and miss most of the time anyway. So if you throw in a 50% strike rate with their halves, scoring points on top of all that other rubbish, you're not going to get close to winning games. They're probably lucky they played Newcastle, to be honest. They deserved to be flogged. They were pretty bad. And they sort of got away with this one, to be honest. I thought they were in a position where they should have got smacked. Mm-hmm. I think most other teams in the comp probably would have smacked them. It's a pretty hard game to get involved with, really. There was a good try saver from Brayley where he ran down Walsh was a good moment in the game. But realistically, other than that, the kick that bounced off the goal post from Nicarima and maybe Clifford's 40-20s, they were pretty much the only highlights out of this entire game. They were the best parts of a game that was really a stinker. Pearce added a little bit of structure, but nothing to get excited about for both teams, really, at the end of this one. Daniel Saifidi with 3 points, Tohu Harris with 2, and Pearce with the 1.
I had the first 2 you just said. I thought Jake Brayley would be in conversation for 1 as well, but I'm okay with Pearce. Ollie?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Which one? Pearce?
Happy to go with Brayley.
No, Brayley.
Oh, Brayley, yeah, that's cool. Our man Lachlan Fitzgibbon had an interesting day out. I think he had first 3 touches, he dropped the ball, then it was a sin bin because of this game, and then
he got sin bin,
and then scored a try. So big day out for Captain Pop Plant there. 22-20 Dragons over the Raiders. It was the 5:30 game for the Raiders. For the Dragons, 156 run meters. Jack DeBellin led that. Ben Hunt, 149 to go with his try assist. 5 tackle busts, 3 line breaks, and 2 line break assists. That was from Ben Hunt. Raiders, Simonson, 234 run meters, including 60 post contacts. Papa Ihi, 186 run meters and 29 tackles. 51 tackles through the middle for Josh Hodgson and 55 for McCulloch. The 2 hookers led the way there. The Faders were back. It looked like they had this game, I thought, in control for a long part of the first time, and even 4 minutes after half-time when Tapane pretty much wandered over, I thought, okay, gates are open here, and then that was the end of the Raiders. Barney, what do you make of this?
Yeah, pretty much exactly what you said there, mate. The stats were pretty much even in this game with the scoreline like that. You'd expect them to be pretty close. The Raiders, man, they're dead set trying to lose fucking every game that they play at the moment. Like, how can you be that bad in the second half every single week? Like, they were lucky the Dragons bombed a couple of tries in the first half. Otherwise, they would have got smacked.
I just don't get how it happened. Like, it can't be fitness. Surely it's not fitness now. It's not. It has to be attitude.
I wouldn't think so.
Surely
No,
it's
not
attitude.
with the amount of game time.
Yeah.
And that jersey was fucking shit. I really like that Raiders
They should get that's one of the slaps. Actually, I should have written it down. That jersey. It was again. That was a flashback to when Parramatta played in the training shirt. That was legit. That was a warm-up shirt.
The worst thing was too. They really should have worn their home jersey because it was a primarily white jersey up against a primarily white jersey as well. Like, why would you go out of your way to wear an away jersey that looks like the other team's home jersey? That's the complete opposite point, like literal opposite point of an away jersey.
Yeah.
So,
why the Raiders didn't have a shot at 40-20 in the first half, I don't know. You have a look at that bomb that they kicked, and the thing went 20 metres backwards because the wind was blowing that hard. And then the Dragons come out and kicked two really nice 40-20s, which turned the momentum like very important times in that second half, and probably got the Dragons the win, realistically.
Yeah, well, and actually...
considering that you've got an next half running the show, like, surely the message got sent out to somebody.
Yeah, well, that's what I couldn't work out, that apart from the two 40-20s, for a game with such wind, for a game where wind had visibly had an effect, get that out.
Yes.
Neither team really used it apart from that. It was weird. Like,
it was strange. Someone like Cleary would have been kicking on the third tackle every bloody set. And just, like, if they're in their own half, just drilling it down the other end and then start again. Like, yeah, anyway, Whiten and Hodgson were good. Hawira and Naira and Whitehead weren't bad, but the rest of the Dragons team the rest of the Raiders team you can get rid of, realistically, the way they're going.
That's all you can say.
Dragons halves played some nice footy, and most of their forward pack was fairly solid, but yeah.
Do you have anything else to talk about from this game?
Oh, well, it's a great second half from the Dragons. I think Ben Hunt well and truly played himself into an Origin jumper. If he hadn't already, he probably would be there anyway off the bench out of necessity. And I get, Canberra, wow, Simonson, for whatever reason, has been on fire, at least in attack, the past few weeks at fullback.
He ran a lot, but he didn't look dangerous a lot. I thought, like, he was around and he was okay.
Yeah, and his defence is also pretty poor. Yeah. So, but that's the only real thing I can add. They're
ordinary. You can't take them on face value. I'm sure they'll all click one day, but we're getting further down the path where they're not going to click now, and we don't need to worry about them. You mentioned the four I would mention. I don't need to say any more. They're the only four I'd want to take out of the game.
Hunt with 3 points, McCulloch with 2, and Hodgson with 1.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, the other two I'd throw up. Whitehead was good. I thought Whitehead was close to their best, and Haru Renara, but he went missing like they all did. They all go missing for half an hour. So,
well, Ollie, who gets your 1 point, mate?
You could chuck.
I'll throw Hodgson. I'm happy with Hodgson.
I'm happy with Hodgson as well. I was just maybe an honourable mention to, I guess, DeBellin, just about his best game since coming
Paul
back.
Vaughan, actually. Yeah. We didn't mention him. He was good off the bench. He had his best game in about a month. So we didn't answer anything. So 3 Hunt, 2. Who did you say for 2? McCulloch, and 1 to. We'll go Hodgson. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. You right, Barney? Just keep soldering on. Nearly there.
Yeah, mate. I'll die in about 20 minutes. We'll be good.
Yeah, we'll be done by then. That's good. We can live stream it. That'll be good views. There you go.
Choke to death on
my own. Go viral, Tony Cools.
No good.
66-16. The Kenny Calendar score. 5 tries in the first 15 minutes for the Storm. I don't know how these stats going to look. Kamakamika led the meters, 160 from Finucane, 156. Hughes, 2 tries, 2 try assists, 6 line breaks. Is that lines back up? 6 tackle busts, 2 line breaks, 2 line break assists. Remus Smith, 2 tries. Tackle wise, Kafusi had to make 24 tackles for poor bugger. what do we say about this game? And like, what can you say? I was laughing. I was cheering 100 by 20 minutes in because they were embarrassing.
And your multi got up.
And my multi got up, so that was fine. They just carved them up from point dot. The Tigers, it's not just... what do you say? Like, there's not even one-on-one, there's not intensity from tacklers. They're not hitting people. No one's even trying to lift them. Luciano, all those blokes went completely missing. It wasn't just defensive reads. They didn't want to be there. They were done. What can I say? So I enjoyed a good team playing good footy. That's about it. Brendan Smith continues his hot form, and Hughes was good, and they're entitled to be because the Tigers stink, Barney.
Yeah, again, 200 post-contact metres, more for the Storm. 12 line breaks to 3 and 40 tackle busts to 14. It's not a good night when that's happening. And then your fullback misses 7 tackles as well. So I know they scored 12 tries, but the Tigers pack were embarrassed, man. They haven't been embarrassed like that all season, and they were just torn apart. It started in the second minute of the game, as you alluded to, and it didn't stop for the rest of for the next 78 minutes. It was A grade versus Z grade for the rest of the night. This is easily the Tigers' worst performance for probably a couple of years, I think. Yeah. And it would have been close to the worst performance of anybody from this season. It's disappointing to see, and as a supporter, if I was a supporter, I'd be extremely disappointed. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the Tigers, but I wouldn't, I'd be extremely fucking upset if I was a supporter of their team after this one. As I said, they just dominated all over the field, and what else can you say?
Well, and these things, people are whinging about the Tavita Pengai. Oh, he's not the right guy. At least a Pengai would have got fired, tried to knock someone's head off or something just to get going.
A few tackle busts or something.
And we saw that, especially we saw him do it against Penrith. We saw him do it against some of these teams where he single-handedly just said, well, okay, if my pack's going to be embarrassed, at least I'll hold my head high. Whereas no one there, and when you've got a pack full of, and they've been okay, but when you've got your Tamos and Twals and
Tana was the best, but
yeah, well, and that's right, he's got a little bit of flair, but robots just get pulled apart by quality packs, I suppose, and it got shown up. They're pretty close to Brisbane level, I'll be honest now. You can have any hope you want. They're pretty close to Brisbane level of they're 4 or 5 years away. They need to clean out 10 blokes from this roster.
Looking more like it, yeah.
You can't keep Karen Roberts. You can't keep any day. You can't have Mabai Brooks. You can't keep having sort of these blokes in the same team and expect to not be towed up every second week. So that's all I want to say about this game. Melbourne are a good team. I think they're the team that'll win the comp. I liked watching them play. Ollie?
Yeah, not too much I can add really to what's been summed up.
Take your point for 3. 3 probably Hughes, 2 Cheese, and Kamakamika, Harry. We didn't even mention Harry. He came on and did some dancing.
James Roberts.
Or Finucane. So any thoughts there?
I had Hughes for 3, Finucane for 2, and Grant for 1. I just left the Cheese out because he only played half an hour.
Yeah.
But
Fair enough.
We're going to have Finucane too then?
No, that's a good point. He was in his... When he came on halftime in his casual gear, I was like, okay. But in that half hour...
Harry Grant he scored and set one up as well and played a little bit longer. But
in that half hour, Cheese had a try assist, a tackle bust, a line break assist, and 16 tackles. But yeah, I'm fine with what you just said then. Parramatta 36, defeated the Dogs 10. Pretty scrappy first half of footy from Para, from both teams, but Bulldogs actually led at the halftime break, and then they finally got their shit together. Parramatta, Papahi was outstanding, 234 metres, including 100 post-contact metres, 29 tackles, Gutho 195 metres, Sean Lane off the bench 185 metres, Nathan Brown 171 metres to go with his 40 tackles, which was as good a game as he's played. He actually got him going in terms of, like I just said, about someone trying to fire up the Tigers forward pack. That's what Nathan Brown does. It's his job in that team, and he does it as good as he does it at club level, as good as anyone. Aaron Schupper ran 115 metres, and Jerry Marshall-King made 50 tackles. Josh Jackson, 42, Dory, 41. Ollie, did you see this game? Did you take much out of it?
Yeah, I was actually in a weird way, I was quite optimistic about the Bulldogs after that first half. Like, usually underdog teams are in front at halftime, and we'll get to a game in a moment where that was the case, and usually we think, okay, the team's going to come back and beat them, but Parramatta weren't really showing me too much that they were going to come back and beat them. The Bulldogs looked hot, and I thought, okay, maybe they're building a little something here, and it'll end up being a close game at the very least. But yeah, a bit of a drop-off by the Bulldogs in the second half, and again, Parramatta getting their shit together was quite influential in the end. And yeah, one player I want to mention, at least from the Bulldogs as well, we've spoken about him the past couple of weeks, ever since Melbourne have been interested in him. Nick Meaney, a great attacking and I think defensive effort. I don't think he missed a tackle in the game as well. And it looks like, I don't know, he's playing for a Melbourne contract. And I think, as I said on the show last week, if you find out Melbourne are interested, you're going to start playing your ass off so you can move to that great club.
Well, I think Gumpy said it well. He said Melbourne don't sign peanuts. So, he's got some ability. And we said it, every time he's played one for Bulldogs, I can't recall him ever letting him down. He's got pace. So you imagine if anyone's going to get the best out of him, it'd be Mr. Bellamy. Barney?
Yeah, a couple of stats here. 5 line breaks to 1 for Parramatta and 27 tackle busts to 13. I was super impressed with the Dogs. I don't think it was more a case of the Dogs falling off in the second half. I think it was just Parramatta got into their groove finally. I thought the Dogs tried hard. They do pretty much every week, but and they were probably the better team in that first half. But Parramatta just didn't really sort of mismatch, and they were dropping balls that they shouldn't have and just didn't sort of click. And then as soon as the second half started, they clicked. They hit their stride, and then it's just the story for the Dogs is they just don't have enough class out in their halves or out wide. They just don't have enough guys that can score points when they need to score points. Their pack pretty much matches it with most of them that are going around at the moment, and that's, again, they did this, and I thought they were probably better than the Para pack for a good part of this game. I think they deserve a lot of praise for what they did in this game. Jeremy Marshall-King, again, last 2 weeks he's been the Dogs' best player, I think, and he wasn't on his own. Thompson and Jackson were good, and their halves were okay, but as I said, once the Eels got on a roll, they were just way too strong. Nathan Brown was tremendous, as you said, coming off that back fence. Moses got into his bully mode and started putting on some nice plays there, actually, with some good kicking and some good short passing to set up most of the points for Parramatta. The Dogs' backline's just not equipped to go with most other teams, and the Eels' backline wasn't great in this one either, but once they got the roll through the middle, Parramatta just took the momentum and ran with it, and that was game over. Yeah,
you summed up pretty well there. Like you said, Moses, once they got 6 ahead, well, Moses decided he was going to play again, which was good, and off he went. You summed up pretty well the Bulldogs, actually, because even someone like Jack Hetherington, he's been a bit maligned, but he's playing pretty good footy. Josh Jackson's playing as good as he's played, or can play in that team. And your Dories and co are starting to come to the party a little bit more. Hopefully they're building something for next year. And if they turn up with that sort of effort, then I think they can beat some of the teams we've talked about already tonight. So 3 points I gave to Papahi, 2 to Brown, 1 to Gutho. Barney?
I had Moses, Papali'i and Jeremy Marshall-King, but do as you will.
I think Papali'i, Brown and Gutho for me are interchangeable, but the 3 have got to be there. That's just me.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm happy with that.
All right, we'll go with that. So
Papali'i 3.
Papali'i, Brown and Gutho or Moses?
I'd go Gutho personally.
We all would go Gutho personally, but that's fine. Let's wrap up the day.
I've just realised I've got something in the oven.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Your head is
Tommy Turbo.
56 to 24. The Seagulls, what was it, 24-8 at half time. They looked pretty good, the Titans, for that half.
Yeah, they did.
I thought they were the better team, clearly. I don't actually understand, because obviously the Tigers have copped flack, and this is not a defence of the Tigers in any way, shape or form, but geez, the Tigers have copped it this week. But it's like, no, everyone just forgot that the Titans conceded 48 points in 40 minutes as well, which is actually the worst half.
I didn't.
You did.
I feel
but
like
I don't know why no question's been asked.
you want to know why? Because people are talking about how good Tommy Turbo's performance was above all else, and if it wasn't for him, to be honest, I think they still come back and win, definitely, and probably do so by about at least 12 points, but I think Turbo's the one who really put him to the sword.
Just quickly for feeder.
Tommy was just running into holes, though.
Yes.
The fucking holes were there, and they were massive. Anyone with decent pace would have ran through those fucking holes.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't stepping blokes and knocking them over and shit like that. He was just running through holes.
Hold
those
that
massive
thought for a
holes that are
second.
there every week.
For feeder, 162 metres. Mo, 156 in 40 minutes, and he played half a game. That might have helped. For Seagulls, lots of these would have been running. Paseka, 186, and Tapau, 176 run metres were the leaders there. Tommy Turbo, 3 tries, 3 try assists, 6 tackle busts, 2 line breaks, 3 line break assists. You are right. Keep going on your rant there, Barney, and I'll join you in a sec.
Exactly, man. What the fuck was this game of football? The first 20 minutes was all Manly. Next 20 was all the Titans. And then the second half was Manly, and then 6 more tries to fucking Manly. Like, the Titans just turned it up. And fucking, it's Kelly, it's Herbert, it's Sammy. Week after week, they all missed 4 tackles. I think one of them missed 5. They just watch blokes run past them. Half the time, they don't even try to put a hand on them. It's ridiculous. Tino, Fafita and Peachy are probably the 3 that deserve a mention, and probably realistically the only 3 that had a really good game in this one. For the Titans, Fogarty was okay, and he generally is week after week. There wasn't really anyone who dominated this game either, apart from Tommy. And then he fed his 2 wingers who ate really well in the afternoon. Like, Garrick and Saab just lapped it up. We're getting, and a lot of, Tommy gets lauded with a lot of it, but as I said, a lot of it was just running through holes, and then he gives the last pass to a winger who just strolls over because the fucking defence is deplorable.
Yeah, and when he is him, he's a big enough body to hit even those 3/4 holes, and he smashes them
and push through it.
And like his last try, which seriously, how do you? I don't care who you. How do you take 5 defenders with you? Like, that is.
Yeah, that's true.
It's. I agree. Like, yeah, great performance. He's obviously red hot, but to go around and say we should rename the Clive Churchill Medal after him based on beating up this team.
He's the hottest player running around at the moment. Let's be honest. But
how this, and maybe it's because the Titans and no one cares. Before due respect, Ollie, but maybe that's how it's easy for your mainstream Sydney-centric media to bash the Tigers all week. Again, not a defence, they deserve it. But how no one questioned a 48-0 second half. When this backline, Marsview's got something, he'll be someone. He's got a bit of size.
He's injured now, but
that's true. But the rest of them...
Campbell had a really good first half, I thought. On a couple of occasions, he owned Turbo, and I thought, wow. But
you may as well move him into the centres, to be honest. Once AJ's back, you may as well play him at centre because he can't go any worse than what's there. And he might give you some attacking stuff. Peachy, when he has his tail up, he looked like classic Peachy for a bit, but then they just disappeared. Ordinary, no effort. For Feeder had... What's this, the 3rd or 4th time he's had 150 run metres and tackle busts in the first half and then doesn't touch a ball second half. We saw it against South. We saw it, there's been another game. He's on the bench for Origin, probably the right place to have him, so whatever. But as you said, Barney, very ordinary. What can you say? What can you say, Ollie?
Not much. I mean, it's weird because we've arguably we have versed 3 of the top 6 sides in the past 3 weeks, and for at least a half, or at least a period of the game, we've matched them and looked better than them, and then other than that, it's just been absolute disappointment. I mean, the periods against Melbourne was probably the best game in a weird way because Melbourne had players out, but against the Roosters, that first half was just crap, and then the second half they got going due to the submitting of Ben Marshke, really. And then just against Manly, I messaged you guys at halftime and I said I can't wait for the Manly comeback in the second half because it's just what happens. It's going to be interesting. In 2 weeks, the Titans are versing the Raiders, so Canberra will probably put 40 on them in the first half, and the Titans will probably put 40 on them in the second half. And then whoever ends up in the lead at the end will win, because that's just it's going to be a crap game, but a high-scoring one.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Barn?
No, man. I had Tom with 3, Garrick with 2, and I gave Fafita the 1. I thought he was the best from the Titans.
Paseka or Olakatau, both good.
Yeah, I'm happy with that as well.
No, Titans don't deserve it. That's like giving...
Yeah, fair enough.
Stuff, and that's like giving Little a point for making 60 tackles. Paseka and Olakatau, they're, Manly are building something, but we'll see where that something is. Just a quick thought, given the comeback you mentioned against Easts, a question for both of you. Easts, and what we saw as a follow-up, are Easts on a downward spiral? Are they who they are? Is injury finally catching up, Barn?
Oh, yeah, I think they're getting a bit tired, mate. They're getting a bit loose in the middle there. And against the better teams, obviously, it's going to show up. They've got enough there to cover the bottom 10 or 12 teams where they'll get through most of the time. But there is you can see it is starting to catch up there. But I think half the time they'll get away with it. Yeah,
well... To me, there was 4 blokes on the field for him. Just to go back to the Penrith game, that was Hargraves, Takiaho while I was on the field, Crichton, and then Teddy. And I think obviously that's enough against most teams, but I think cracks are coming, and I'm pretty concerned now by the end of the year where they might be.
I think they're sort of hanging on a little bit. Their defence isn't what it's been the last couple of years. Anyway, that was good team to show it up, though.
I only thought of that just because you mentioned the comeback last time. Anything to add?
I do think they are getting tired and things are going to get harder for them. I don't see an absolute drop-off, though. As you sort of alluded to, they're still going to beat most sides in the competition, which could see them at most maybe escape with 4th. Most likely, you're probably thinking 5th or 6th.
Yeah,
they're just going to finish 5th or 6th. But it's always the factor of the quality of your players like your Teddies and your Taukauhos when he's on, your Tupanua in the forward pack, and it honestly depends on who Sam Walker's up against too, because certain teams he'll just tear to shreds.
Yeah, the more I've sort of thought about it, and I've obviously been very critical of Souths, but they keep winning and scoring points, but unless you're playing Melbourne and Penrith, the big forward pack doesn't necessarily count. Like, it doesn't matter this year, and I can see Souths, if they got in a row against the Roosters, putting points on this Roosters team, not necessarily a full strength one, and I think Parramatta can potentially bully this team if they all turn up and play that vein. I think their forward pack can do enough to counter the 3 forwards I mentioned, to where it just puts Teddy out of the game. And so I think
Manly,
realistic, and Manly's close. Manly would be a good game. I'm almost moving Roosters to 6, and I'm saying Souths, and even based on draw, Souths and Para are 3 and 4 now. Souths might finish second, because they've got such a great draw, and can be in a I'm not saying should be. I'm just saying they're a chance if there's
I think
misstep along the way.
Whoever it is, I'm not giving a prediction right now, but either Penrith or Melbourne, I think, are going to lose one more game.
Well, round 20.
It's round 20, whoever does.
Yeah,
and I think
so. That probably decides the minor premiership, really.
Yep.
Very interesting. Peanut of the week. Have you got one, Ollie?
I do. Well, actually, I've unfortunately been able to choose from a fair bit, but I'm going to stick to the original one from the other night on my Tavita Pangai Junior post. Now, I obviously spoke to you guys about this bloke. Basically, I'm not going to go through the whole conversation. I'm just going to emphasise the bit where the peanuttery occurred. But basically, it was me who I think TPJ's had a good season. I think we've all agreed. We all had him in our New South Wales Origin setup against someone who probably doesn't watch rugby league and has only really heard about TPJ and what he's done. He's lazy football from probably last year and 2 years ago and hasn't watched too many Broncos games this year. Nevertheless, one of this person's replies to my comment was, it's just those little lazy things that he does, and only people who really know the game notice it. So apparently me and you two as well, because you both believe he's a good player, don't actually watch rugby league and don't actually know the game. So I thought, okay, I wanted this bloke to explain, how TPJ's been bad this year and, how he's been lazy. And I was thinking, okay, as someone, he's inferring to himself as someone who knows the game, he's probably going to be able to pick specific examples from specific games that he's watched. What did he come back with? Last night on NRL 360, they highlighted 3 lazy plays from this year. Oh, okay. So you watched NRL 360 once, where they went out of their way to micro look at 3 plays in 15 rounds, and that's what you could come up with.
Yeah. Anything to add, Barney?
No, as you said, mate, it's 15 rounds. You could pick any. You could pick the best of the best, and they're going to have 3 moments that, they're going to be caught on tape that they wish nobody had seen.
Yeah.
So
I think
it's just,
people get too carried away with, like, the game takes all sorts. He's allowed to be a flash player and be a very good flash player without having to make... And I was just critical of David Fafita too, so, I guess put him in the same category. They're not there to make 45 tackles, so they can't all be Isaiah or Angus Crichton or Cam Murray. So they can be very good at what they do. It's then how you harness that. A good coach would harness that, right? If you put Pengai into that Melbourne Storm team, what's he going to do to some teams?
Exactly.
So
a lot of the comment also comes around his penalties, which he hasn't given away anywhere near as many as he has in previous years this year, and his defence is up close to 90% efficiency. So I don't know where all these comments come from.
92.2%.
They come from previous years, but yeah.
Sometimes it's harder to shake a perceived. Sometimes harder to shake a stereotype than it is to.
Well, I guarantee most people. Now, a couple of people had valid arguments as to why he's probably not as good as I was hyping him up to be. However, a lot of the comments that I saw, you can just look and go, you've maybe watched 1-2 Brisbane games this year, and that's it. And just to add to your point where you're talking about, you could look at pretty much any player and probably pick out 3 lazy moments or moments where they've been off kilter a bit. It'd be a lot harder to do so than TPJ, obviously, but you could probably look at Tom Trbojevic and there's probably somewhere there 3 occasions where he's done something a little stupid or a little bit wrong. Nathan Cleary as well. Nobody's perfect.
Well, I just wrapped Angus Crichton in the same sentence. I think the last 3 weeks he's missed probably 5 tackles, and I've still said he's in the best 2 or 3 players on the field. But
you can pick any player in the game and then just show them every ball they've dropped this year or every tackle, put it in a 10, 20-second clip, and it's going to look like shit, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing is too, as people as well, and this is just our brains, we're wired to think negatively before we think positively. So if someone brings up something positive or someone that's had a great game, most of the time you'll get someone going, oh yeah, but they made a mistake. Yeah. Or yeah, but they did this wrong. Okay, does that completely take away from the 200 running metres, whatever? Well,
this goes back to the root of all peanuttism, which is people don't want to admit they're wrong. So they'd rather go down with the ship than actually say, oh, yeah, no, fair enough. Anyway, we need to get on to our last couple of points. Do you have a slap this week? Ollie?
A slap this week? I think I'm going to slap my own team. Surprise, surprise.
Yep, very good. The Titans. Sorry, I can't find my sound effects. So a slap for the Titans.
Slap for the Titans.
I'll tell you what. I'll go hard. We need to throw pot plants in as well. So I'll trade you. I'll slap the Tigers and I'll pot plant the Titans. And you can...
I'll pop plant the Tigers.
There you go. Have you got one of each, Barn?
Beautiful. May as well slap the Sharks as well. Why not? It's just, I've mentioned it time and time again, that how they get lazy in defence at the back end of games and let in a whole heap of missed tackles through the middle. Need to fix that. And my pot plant's Sam Williams. The bloke played 80 minutes, had 1 run for 8 metres, made 9 tackles, missed 4, made a pretty basic error, and as I said, didn't even have a crack at a 40-20. Like, surely he's smart enough to know that the wind's blowing the fucking thing 20, 30 metres down the field. Have a crack at a 40-20, try and do something.
Very good. That's a good pot plant, actually. Some of these, there's been some genuine pot plant efforts this year. Let's finish on a good note, as we like to do, with our salute of the week. And I will give it to... I'm actually going to give it to... We'll go back to the Sharkies. I'll give it to Aaron Woods. He's lost his contract. He's a bit out on his ass. He's come out and been pretty honest about it. And I think the last 3 weeks he's playing as good a footy as I've seen him nearly since at the Tigers. There was one game where he did single-handedly win us the game against the Warriors, but this is going back 6-7 years, where he was unstoppable, led to him playing for Australia and everything else. And I'm not saying he's in that sort of form, but this was as good a single performance as I've seen from him in many years. So
5 years at least.
So salute for him, Barney.
I'm going to salute the Penrith backline. As I said before, there was some simple stuff that led to tries, but there was also some really flashy, beautiful-looking football. And the conditions out there were pretty bad. It was pretty wet, it was slippery, and you didn't see a lot of mistakes coming out there. It was just really good to watch.
Ollie?
I'm going to salute Nick Meaney, not necessarily because of the form he's been in the past couple of weeks, but sort of the reason why. Obviously, the reports that Melbourne are interested to any player that could make them become complacent. And for him, he's only upped his game. He wasn't bad or anything beforehand, but I think you can see like a very noticeable shift in his form and an increase in form ever since those reports started coming out. So it's probably helped a lot with his confidence, and it's good to see him not get complacent and continue to, I guess, play for that contract.
Good job, boys. It's a record show. Just over, what are we, an hour and 15 minutes. Unbelievable. I want to thank you, Barney, for rising off your deathbed. Thanks to my mute
I've got
button.
the antibiotics now. I've had the COVID test. So.
Good work. So you're clear? Or you waiting?
Next couple of days. I don't know. I had it today. Find out tomorrow or the next day. I would assume so.
I want to thank my mute button for blocking out Barney's breathing for most of this show. And I want to thank Chill Flow Cool Rooms for looking after us, and producer Tony for putting us up in the studio today. We enjoyed the live stuff. Hopefully we can do it again soon with all of us here. Ollie, good luck this weekend. What are we all going to do? What are you doing with no footy on?
No idea.
Yeah. We should do a quick tip for Origin.
Man of the match, Nathan Cleary, New South Wales, 13 plus. I think the score is going to be roughly around 32-10, something like that. And I'm going to have first try scorer as Brian Toe.
I know I said last week that I was considering tipping Queensland, but after seeing the teams that got announced, I've got to go with New South Wales, 13 plus, Tom Trbojevic, man of the match. First try scorer, Latrell Mitchell.
Did you have a bet or you didn't? Barney's dying. I'm going to go New South Wales 36, let's say 36-6. First try scorer will be Latrell. Both centres will score. And man of the match, we'll go with Latrell again to wrap up the Ollie Lewis medal. I think he's... I
do have a bet. I did have a couple of bets for the disaster class. But
yeah, no, I was going to say, throw them out. Yep. Yeah. Just for the sake of it.
All right. So
I'll go $50 on the Latrell and Turbo, whatever I just mentioned.
Double?
Yeah, do that.
Latrell Turbo?
Yeah. If it misses, I'll just say this round doesn't count.
So I actually came up with 4 bets for this one, to be honest. I had New South Wales 13 plus, Tommy, Latrell and Tuo to score at any time, with $20 on that at $6.25. I'm going to have $10 on the whole New South Wales backline to score, so 1 to 5. That'll get you $17. Put $10 on that. Both the New South Wales wingers to score a double. It's $13. I have $10 on that, and $10 on Latrell first try scorer at $11.
Well, let's push this closer to the big milestone of minus 1,000. Queensland 13 plus, Francis Molo 2 or more.
Please gamble responsibly. All right, boys, good job. Barney, sorry. Yeah, what are you going to do this weekend without footy? I'll cut you off. Probably see the family for a little bit.
Oh, sorry, mate. The internet dropped out there for a second. I missed Ollie's bet, and I've just heard you jump back in there.
Don't about Ollie's bet. Just Francis Molo.
I heard something about Queensland and Molo or something.
Yeah. Ollie, what are you doing this weekend? Are you going to see the missus or something?
No,
more than likely.
This weekend I've actually got my cousin's wedding in Maitland, and
nice.
We're currently where we're at in Penrith. We're outside of the zone. Where there are restrictions on travelling outside the metropolitan area, so we're all good. We're heading up there Friday night, probably watch the Women's Origin at Miani's house, wedding on Saturday, then on Sunday get back home for Origin.
When's that? Friday night? The Women's? Yeah.
Yeah, Friday night.
That's right. Barney, see the family?
Yeah, daughter's meant to have a birthday party on the weekend. So I'm not sure if that's still going to go ahead, but we'll see how we go on Saturday morning. Just spend some time with the wife, try and train this dog to go outside rather than all through the house. Bit of that. But yeah, not much on this weekend, mate. You?
No, same. I think we already teed up movie night for the kiddies, so that'll be my weekend.
Nice.
Saturday
What
night.
movie?
I haven't decided. They'll pick maybe a couple of the new Netflix ones. I'll report back. I'll give a review on Tuesday. So we'll be back next Wednesday. So Sunday Origin. We'll be back next Wednesday with a quick Origin wrap and a preview. We're also going to do our top 10, and we're going to name our squads if we had to pick a team based around, was it players with less than 100 first grade games?
It's the expansion.
It's an expansion one, but we set ourselves with a restriction. We can only pick players
from who are off contract in 2022 to make it.
No, we simplified it. Less than 100 players.
Less than 100. I'd hope less than 100.
Who have played less than 100 first grade games and no rep footy.
Okay, and it doesn't matter about off contract or anything?
No,
okay.
So we're looking for our gun sort of under the radar players, I guess.
Yep.
So is it no rep footy, less than 100 games?
It was going to be 5 less than 150 or something, and then the rest of the 100, but we'll get back to it.
I think we should get 1 or 2 marquees.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, 5 of them can play rep footy, but still less than 100 games. There you go.
Okay.
All right. Then it could be New Zealand only. I'm talking international origin. Yep. No, don't worry about the Mickey Mouse stuff. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone who's joined us in the chat. Thank you, everyone who's jumped on again. We'll get out of here and we'll talk to everyone after a while.